The following is from a collection by Max Ehrman. Whatever else you do or forbear in life, impose upon yourself the task of happiness, and now and then abandon yourself to the joy of laughter. For however much you condemn the evil in the world, remember, the world is not all evil, and that somewhere children are at play, as you yourself in the old days, and that men and women treading with restless feet their many paths, yet may find refuge from the storms of the world in the cheerful house of love. Our sermon this morning is titled, Overcoming Myself. I've been thinking a lot about politics lately. I look at what's happening overseas and I am appalled. I pray constantly for peace. And I'm not too happy about what's happening here either. Now, I don't want to talk about what's happening on a national level. Rather, I'm going to focus on the role of politics in our personal lives and with the people around us. So, okay, the situation is as follows. I voted. Never mind for who, I voted. Now, there are a number of people in my life that voted quite differently. I feel very strongly about certain issues. So do they. And ordinarily, voting differently would not matter. I can guess how the other person voted, and I would think they are wrong or mistaken, and they would think I am. And it's not a big problem. We might sometimes choose to get into conversations about politics, and each of us would try to persuade the other to see how stupid and wrong-headed their ideas are. But no big deal. We might even laugh it off, possibly tease each other, making jokes. But these days, politics do not seem to be a laughing matter. I see really bad things about to happen, and to be fair, so do they. They think I'm crazy and that if I get my way, it will ruin the country, which is pretty much how I see them. It really bothers me that we're in this situation. And it's not just me and the people I know. The whole country seems to be caught up in this demon mongering, making the other side out to be folks who will bring our country down. I hate it, but that's how we feel. And I don't know what to do about it. I should mention here, there are two values that I'm wrestling with, that I hold very dear. One is speaking truth to power, and the other is being a peacemaker. And unfortunately, these two ideas seem to be in conflict with one another sometimes. Now, in all honesty, the people I know who voted differently than I, well, they're not my enemies, but it sure feels like it sometimes. But I can only look at my own actions and reactions and to what extent I am part of the problem, because I can't control or dictate to anybody else. It would be a lot easier if I could just blame it all on them. Just now, it seems more important than ever to step up, to make a difference, because bad things seem to be on the horizon. We may rue the day if we've not done everything in our power to make the right things happen, or at least to prevent horrid ideas from growing stronger. Perhaps I should give you some background. I was raised on the teachings of Jesus. And as I grew up, I learned about the teachings of Gandhi, and later on, the teachings of Martin Luther King. I honestly revere these people and their insights. I think all three of them had a higher vision. And frankly, all three had a very similar message, a message about nonviolence and loving and being a peacemaker. Oh, I buy that. I buy that being a peacemaker is an incredibly important value. But each of these three that I mentioned, Jesus, Gandhi, and Martin Luther King, well, they lived in situations that were difficult, frightening, and monstrously unfair. They each faced situations that were life-threatening, not just for themselves, but for those they loved too. And each of them had no hesitation about speaking truth to power. And they paid a high price for it. I'm not in that situation. I face a difficult reality, a scary future, but my life is not threatened. I may see a threat to my way of life and perhaps to my values, but so do those who voted differently. I am very much aware that those I might wish to confront are quite literally my brothers and friends, people I grew up with, people who have nurtured me and helped me, people I have laughed with and cared about, and who have cared about me. Remember, I'm not talking here about our national leaders, but about the people actually in our lives. I have no problem at all with the concept of confronting national or even local leaders. In fact, it's probably my duty. But they're not the people I interact with, that I live with. They're not the people that I may or may not actually influence, because it is my actions, our actions, with the people around us that I'm talking about today. How do we deal with the people that are actually in our lives? I wonder, should I confront them? Would that do any good? Or should I just shut up and live quietly with these people that I do love and care about? But I don't think staying silent is entirely a good idea. If I shut up, aren't I allowing something that I do not approve of to grow? If I'm doing nothing about it, if I don't point out ramifications to them, am I not complicit in allowing ideas which become actions, allowing those ideas harmfully to run unchecked? If you look at some of the turning points of history, what if someone had spoken up and persuaded the folks around them to stop and rethink? I believe in the ripple effect. That is, what happens in one place can reach out and affect other places until it grows into an entire movement. And if the ripple effect does work, then maybe by speaking up, we could prevent horrid injustices, violence, possibly even wars. So what we do or say in our personal lives to those around us may have positive consequences. And maybe none of this is a problem for you. Maybe you think that by speaking your truth, It's so important that it must be done, even at the price of breaking the peace. Maybe you think that your truth has to be spoken, shouted even, so that the correct side prevails and the other side might be neutralized. Or maybe you think that keeping the peace is so important that sometimes it means shutting up, even when you want to speak out, because you think it's the only thing you can do, that it would make the situation worse because nobody's listening anyway. The problem is, I honestly believe both of these things at the same time, and it's driving me crazy. I don't have any easy answers here. Heck, I don't even have any hard answers. I have no answers at all. I only have questions and hopes. Most of the time, I can see the wrong-headedness of those who voted differently. I can see the person beyond the stupid ideas. I can see the person I know, the person who loves and cares and laughs and plays. I can see the person beyond the politics. But what if I think that wonderful person is also ripping off the wings from butterflies? Aren't I required to intervene? If I say nothing or do nothing, how am I any different from those who just don't care? I don't see a lot of alternatives here. Sometimes it seems safer to just keep our thoughts to ourselves. But if we do not speak up, are we not then turning our backs to possibly horrific situations? Is it possible that there is no absolute answer? That true wisdom lies in listening and speaking and knowing when to do what? I warned you, I don't have any answers. Each one of you has your own way of dealing with this. And for some of you, I'll bet you too wrestle with this dilemma of peacekeeping versus speaking up. For some of you, the answer is easy, and you think I'm crazy and unwilling to face the harsh reality. Sadly, a big part of me agrees with you. I long for a simpler time, even though that time probably never really existed. When I was younger, I knew right from wrong. I had a lot of answers back then. Things were clear. There were good guys and bad guys, and obviously, I was always one of the good guys. People who didn't see things my way, well, they were wrong. But that's not reality today. Many folks who voted differently have valid grievances that I should listen to and know about. I have to ask, am I seeing or even trying to see and understand what the other side is afraid of? Because both of us, both sides are afraid. And both sides have valid reasons to be. Can we hear the fear and what it's based on? Can we address that fear realistically? Remember, I'm not talking about the national leaders here, but the people in my life. My brother who has supported me in my illness. My neighbor who, without being asked, shovels my sidewalks when it snows. My friend who plays board games with me. My fellow church member who's worked for decades to help make the congregation a thriving place. They're not monsters. I accuse them of not seeing the truth, of listening to people and news media who are telling them lies. But they think I'm doing the same thing, listening to those who are telling me only what I want to hear. Maybe it's just a matter of timing, when you need to be a peacemaker and when you need to speak your truth. I remember the story of two friends in the 1930s who were in the same profession. As their success grew, so did their friendship. They became very close over the years. And one evening they were working on building some models, a hobby they both enjoyed. And as they worked, they started talking politics. Sadly, one of them was an enthusiastic liberal, and the other was a die-hard conservative. So their discussion became very heated. They grew so angry that they started fisticuffs, and they were rolling around on the floor, hitting each other, breaking the models they were working on, their wives frantically trying to pull them apart. Days later, the two of them came back together, and they vowed never to talk politics with each other again because their friendship was more important. And sure enough, to the end of their days, Henry Fonda and Jimmy Stewart remained friends and never again talked politics together. That is peacemaking at its finest. But then in another time and place, a woman was so upset and angry with one of the situations that was prevalent that she needed to speak her truth as loudly as she could. So she wrote a book which catalogs many of the evils that she saw. And it cost her friendships. And for a short while, put her family's fortune in jeopardy. But it had a huge impact. A few years later, when Abraham Lincoln met the author of Uncle Tom's Cabin, he praised Harriet Beecher Stowe for being brave enough to write the book that engaged folks and made them see the things about slavery they had not wanted to see before. That is speaking truth to power. How do you know when to do which? It all seems rather gray rather than sharp and clear. I remember back in my youth, a band called the Monkees came out with a song that at the time I really liked, but did not truly understand. Now I kind of think it's my theme song.
When the world and I were young, just yesterday, life was such a simple game a child could play. It was easy then to tell right from wrong, easy then to tell weak from strong. When a man should stand and fight, or just go along. But today there is no day or night. Today there is no dark or light. Today there is no black or white. Only shades of gray. I remember when
The answers seemed so clear. We had never lived without or tasted fear. It was easy then to tell truth from lies, selling out from compromise, who to love and who to hate, the foolish from the wise. But today there is no day or night. Today there is no dark or light. Today there is no black or white. Only shades of gray. It was easy then to know what was fair, when to keep and when to share, how much to protect your heart and how much to care. But today there is no day or night. Today there is no dark or light. Today there is no black or white. Only shades of gray. Only shades of gray.
I don't always know what to do, how to love the people in my life who support a path so different from mine. And they do not always know how to deal with me. I wonder if I'm becoming too defensive to listen. Can I hear what matters to them? Can I hear the issues behind the fears? I don't know. I don't have the wisdom to know what to do. I just muddle along, hoping for the best and trying very hard to live each of my values, even when they clash with each other. So be it. That ends the sermon. If I were there with you in person, your talented musicians would doubtless perform something wonderful and inspirational, but alas, it is just me on this recording. But I actually do have some final words for you. In the coming days, politics is going to matter more and more. As I record this, the situation in the Ukraine is bad and getting worse. What we as a country do, how we will respond, will be vitally important. Sadly, this could not come at a worse time for our country because we are so not united. We do not all share the same ideas about the European conflict. Therefore, it is vital right now that we listen to one another within our own country, that we hear each other's concerns, and that we hold to our convictions without making demons of each other. I pray for peace. I pray for the safety of the more than 2 million human beings who have fled their country, for the millions who will follow them, and for those who will stay. I pray for the protesters within Russia. They are bravely putting themselves in such danger. I pray for the young men and women on both sides who are putting their very lives on the line. And on a personal note, I have special prayers for the Ukrainian Cat Cafe in Kyiv, who chooses to stay open because the humans refuse to abandon their animals. And even when the conflict in Europe is ended, we will still need to live together in this country with brothers and sisters who vote differently than we do. Let us learn to live in peace with one another. This is probably my last sermon with you all. Sadly, my health is making this just too difficult to continue just now. I have loved working with you, loved being given the opportunity to share with you and get to know you a little. Zoom has made it possible to preach from my bed. Who would have thought? I want to say thank you for allowing me into your sanctuary, for allowing me to share my thoughts with you. Thank you for some really outstanding talkbacks. You have sometimes made me think and rethink the messages. And a special thank you for the folks who work on your Sunday services committee. They have made this process so easy with their professionalism, their understanding of the creative process, and their warmth and welcoming. I wish you all the best. Stay safe, my friends.